So for the first part, monitoring and planning, very often we use tools such as Airtable or Trello, which are tools that utilize the Kanban methodology of working. It's a very efficient task management tool that allows you to see each and every team member and what they're working on at the moment, and you can also move things from the planning section to the doing section to the review section, then to the done section. What this helps you to do is it monitors your time and the resources that you put into every project. Another one for planning would be sometimes you can use a OmniGraffle or an Omni tool, which allows you to create a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart helps you to see how much time you'll be using for each stage of the project. So it allows you to be transparent and create visibility for your client. And when you work with clients, Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 clients, one of them being, Air China or Swire, you need to make sure that you're managing your time of your team and that you can do it in the most efficient way. So of course there's a multitude of different tools that you use in a company to try and optimize and make more efficient your processes and your operations. The second part of the tooling that I'm going to talk about is recording. So what this means is that when you start the process of creativity, you want to make sure that you can record any idea or inspiration that you have found from any medium, be it a magazine, a book, from the web. So we definitely use certain tools such as Pinterest or Milanote, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, to try and consolidate our ideas. Another way we do that as well is through an offline medium with a mood board. Either you can do it with a large A1 piece of card where you can pick up materials and you can put it on a mood board. Say you're working on a branding for a fashion company. You might be inspired by different materials you find. You might be inspired by a piece of rust that you find in a hardware shop in Wan Chai or somewhere else, and you want to keep that texture. You want to make sure you take some of those colors that you can use towards that project. You never know where inspiration may strike, so it's always good to record any inspiration you find to be used later in your creative process. So for the last part, the last set of tooling is used for creativity. This is of course Adobe Creative Cloud. You can use Affinity Designer, you can use Procreate on the iPad, you could use so many different tools that are out there, to digital tools and also offline tools that help us to be as creative as our mind can let us be. Think outside of the box. Another tool that we use to help people get out of a rigid mindset and be more open-minded is brainstorming workshops. We use things such as the Creative Matrix. We use radiographs. We use different design thinking exercises to get people out of their comfort zone and start thinking of different ideas that they would not normally think of if they had only thought about it in one perspective. The last thing would be tool-wise is that we use things that are offline as well. So like I mentioned, of course, we are in a very saturated digital time, but don't forget the amount of creativity that can be brought from offline mediums or offline tools. Use your jot pencil, use a ballpoint pen to create different textures. Use some paint or ink in a water bath to create a texture to be used in your next branding project. Use things that allow you to screen print, illustrate by your hand, scan it into your computer to be used for packaging design. Be very, very creative and make sure that you don't limit yourselves to using only digital tools, but also things such as pen and paper as well. So if you would want to start a career in graphic design or branding, try to actually go out there and maybe look at brands that you follow or brands that you find exciting. Look at them in the industry that they're in and think about what makes them unique. What's special about them and what values do they represent that align with your values. Okay, think about how you are connected to them, because that will put you in the mind frame of understanding why brand strategy is so important. Second thing that you could do is you could look at a big company out there if you want to use some technical skills and try and redesign a brand that's out there. If you think a brand has not been designed so well, take your shot at drawing with a pen on a piece of paper, or start drawing on Illustrator if you're comfortable with that tool. Think of a different logo. Think of a different application of that logo and how this brand could do it better. So Cocoon gave me these really cool little animal cards and asked me to pick out 3 of the top skills that I feel are important for a creative entrepreneur. So the first one that I picked is, of course, to be creative like a monkey. This one is an obvious one. And the purpose of this is, of course, try to push yourself out of your comfort zone in your mind as well. Try to think outside of the box, go outside, get some inspiration, look at other companies out there, look at companies in other industries that may inspire you. You never know when it's going to strike. So be as creative as you can and have fun while you're doing it, like a monkey, I guess. All right, so the second skill that I found to be most useful for a creative entrepreneur is the learn through experience like a dog skill. All right, so the reason why this is important is because obviously over time you're going to work with various different clients on various different projects, and it's important to learn what works and what doesn't. What works in terms of tools, what kind of branding campaigns may work better for a particular industry. This is extremely important as you move forward in your career because let's be real here, you need to generate value and revenue from design and creativity. So you've got to learn how to run it also like a business. You need to make sure that you're able to turn projects around faster and make sure that you use mostly what works without losing that touch of creativity, of course. Okay, so the third skill that I have over here is be visionary like an eagle. The reason why this is important is because when you think of a brand, you need to think about the story behind it, the strategy behind it, the voice behind it, and this should last a company for decades to come. A brand it's not a small thing, and it's not something that you should be changing, every 2 years or every 6 months. You need to get it right the first time, and you need to use data, you need to use your consumers to help you to get it right, because your brand should last you for the next few decades. And that is something that is extremely important, that you think long term, because you need to think about how you can create a brand that is adaptable to very different changing marketplaces, economic environments, and different consumers, and so on and so forth. So make sure you think long term as well. What entrepreneurship means to me. So this one's going to be quite straightforward. Entrepreneurship for me is having the courage to execute on an idea, even if you are the only one in the beginning who believes in it. That's important. That for me is entrepreneurship. It doesn't mean that it has to make you millions. It actually would be great if it's something that you did fail in, because failure is your first attempt in learning, and that's something that is invaluable. That's invaluable life experience. So, have the courage and follow through with your ideas.
聽完分享啦喎，記住 scan 個 QR code，完成 video ask 嘅問題同問卷，以完成成個 step 3嘅過程。